Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. It keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Rory O'Toole. Today, we are going to be reviewing all things music, summer 2020, summer review episode, a synopsis, a summation, just kind of a bird's eye view of what the heck happened this summer in music. Obviously, there's been a lot happening in the world at large, but, you know, music keeps getting released, songs keep getting recorded, albums, they come out. Summer didn't stop it, even with quarantine and all the craziness that we saw this summer. There's plenty to talk about. We're going to get into, first, what the song of the summer is. We're going to discuss the candidates. Then I'm going to declare a winner, because this is a dictatorship. I am a tyrant. This is my podcast, and you are my subjects. Though I'm a benevolent dictator, you can trust me to always make the right decision. Then we're going to get into the winners and losers of summer 2020. Who came out on top? Whose career is better after passing through summer 2020? Whose career is on the downslope? Who gained more followers? Who lost some? Who improved their music? Whose music kind of went downhill? Gonna run through all of that. Then we're gonna get into best albums of the summer. This is sort of like the song of the summer deal, where I'm gonna go through all the candidates. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to declare a winner for this. You know what? I think this one, we're going to let everyone get their flowers. Allow everyone to get their fair share. So, yeah, we're going to just discuss the best albums of summer. We don't have to award a trophy for that one. And then we're going to finish off with a new segment called True or False, Summer 2020. I'm going to say statement. I'm going to allow you to guess whether it's true or false. I'm going to tell you whether it was true or false, because that's how crazy summer 2020 was. It's hard to tell the fact from the fiction. I think it's going to be a great show. So, obviously, this summer has been quite different than summers past. We are all stuck in our homes. Maybe some of us have experienced tragedies related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe someone close to us, maybe mutual friends of friends. A lot of us have been touched by this virus, by this epidemic. So that, for one, has made this summer just tremendously stressful, depressing, dark, and really scary for a lot of people. And even for those who have not been touched by the pandemic, lucky enough to live in a country where things are functioning better, or you're just plain old lucky and you don't know anyone and haven't personally been infected or had anyone close to you been infected, even those people who are quote-unquote lucky, their lives have still been affected by the pandemic. Society at large is completely in a whole different place. in every single way, lots of ways that are much more important than music. That being said, this is a music-driven podcast, so just from a music perspective, things have been just frankly weird and not operated the traditional summer rhythms that we're used to. Even discussing what a summer song is feels a bit weird because nobody's going to parties, no one's going to bars, nightclubs, you're not out and about hearing songs, people's cars, barbecues. Just all of that is gone. The traditional markers of what you would say a summer song is, which for the purposes of this podcast, I'm defining as not necessarily a song that was released in the summer, but a song that people were reaching for, playing, really advocating for during the summer. That is the way I'm defining what a summer song is. So it's that song that you can't stop listening to, or the song that you can't escape during the summer. And usually you figure that out by, what we say is a normal summer. You're going out, you're hanging out with friends, maybe you have a summer job, yada yada. But you are out and about in the world. The world is going more or less normally, and you kind of figure out from when you're out and about what people are listening to and what you're listening to. And usually the music is matching that mood, but with quarantine, with self-isolation, with stay-at-home orders, with all kinds of other disasters and tragedies that have happened this summer, people are a little bit more scattered in where they are emotionally, where their emotions are. And I think in Vulture, they had a good piece on this where they said, the summer song, as I alluded to, it's a song you hear at the bar, in the club, coming out of a car, in a grocery store. But in 2020, the race for summer song has been disrupted by coronavirus and lockdown. There's no mechanism where a song could come on and you could see a mass of people rushing to revel in it. Record labels typically release potential summer smashes in late winter or early spring, time to peak by early June. But this year, many major releases, including albums by Lady Gaga, Disclosure, Haim, Alicia Keys, and the 1975, were pushed back due to pandemic uncertainty. So, it feels a little weird even discussing what is the summer song. And I think the real answer here is there is no song of the summer, because each experience, though we're all sort of undergoing this crazy social experiment of stay-at-home orders and living through a pandemic, everyone's experiencing it differently. So I don't want to subscribe one song to everybody, but this is basically my song of the summer and what I think is touching most people, the general public, so far this summer. But it's really been a crazy summer. Hopefully this is an outlier and we don't have summers like this in the future. But anyways, on to the candidates. To start things off with, candidate number 1 for Song of the Summer, WAP by Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion. Top song on the Rolling Stone charts. It was the biggest debut streaming week in history. And obviously the controversial nature of the lyrics and the song itself, led to a lot of headlines. And really that's kind of the strategy behind even getting it popular. All press is good press, including bad press. If you're making people angry, if parents and, cultural critics are talking about how this song is bad for society and bad for young people, yada yada, that means your song's gonna make a lot of money, because people like stuff that's controversial, and this song was quite controversial and you could not escape it this summer. Played all over the radio, streaming of course, as I mentioned, and it has been applauded by some for being a joyful role reversal. You typically see men engaging in this sort of lyrical content, this sort of, even just the music video, the way it takes place. It's not often you see female artists taking that position. So, if you want to give it the benefit of the doubt, it is, quite subversive in that way. Next up, Gasoline by Haim. This is from their third album, Women in Music Part 3. And here on Gasoline, I think The Guardian puts it really well. They said, it's a calm jam, complete with a wigged-out psychedelic middle. It suits the COVID-19 purgatory perfectly as our foot pedals past memories to the floor and our sights are set on that destination future we yearn to arrive at. Contagious guitar grabs your attention right away with beautiful harmonies and gorgeous vocals. Play it in your car, please. That is perfect one to just blast in your vehicle. Rockstar from DaBaby featuring Roddy Ricch was crowned the song of the summer by Billboard, just straight numerical output. It is technically the most popular song of summer. Between Memorial Day and Labor Day, Rockstar held the top spot for 13 out of 15 weeks. For 7 of those weeks, it was also number 1 on the Hot 100 chart. Streamed 514.6 million times this summer. Quite a lot. Cardigan from Taylor Swift. That's sort of the more emotional, more, if you're approaching the pandemic, you're in your feels, you're reassessing your past relationships, and just trying to move forward. It's from Taylor Swift's great album, Folklore, and Cardigan is one of the strongest ones off that album. The Roses remix from St. John, that has been a slow burn. I think that was released last year, but took off on TikTok, and it's hugely popular on every workout playlist on Spotify or Apple Music. And it's played all over the radio, up-tempo. It's, high BPMs, which we mentioned before with where pop music's going. Yeah, that's definitely a good candidate for summer. The Savage remix, Megan Thee Stallion featuring Beyonce. Of course, this was a number 1 hit. Of course, it was a huge TikTok hit. Of course, it dominated the radio. Great candidate there. Kyoto from Phoebe Bridgers' album Punisher that came out this summer. It's probably the catchiest song on that album and the one closest to traditional rock song. After a few listens, the beautiful but devastating lyrics get to you. I think it speaks to the emotional anguish of quarantine summer, and more importantly, it's catchy as hell. And something about summer, you just want something catchy, something to stick in your head, something that you're going to hum to yourself when you're out in the sun, at the beach, with friends. Kyoto is definitely that. Dynamite from the K-pop supergroup BTS was a huge hit this summer. It was the first Korean number 1 hit on the Billboard charts with this bright Sunflower track that almost sounds like Maroon 5 with some Bruno Mars horn sections in there. It's catchy. Obviously has had huge staying power. It's the most sold song of the summer with 486,000 combined digital and physical sales in just the last 2 weeks. Pretty nuts, but K-pop always breaking the bank. Watermelon Sugar from Harry Styles. This is a massive radio smash. I believe that was released back in November maybe, and just the whole bright nature to it, the instrumentation, the subject matter, the whole thing feels like a summer song, and it has certainly dominated people's listening habits this summer. Over Now, Calvin Harris featuring The Weeknd. Smooth, syrupy groove that feels like the kind of R&B pop that is perfect for summer, and continues in that 80s groove sort of aesthetic that The Weeknd has really marinated in these past few months. Hunger for a Way Out by Sweeping Promises. Catchy, high-energy DIY sound of this post-punk, really intriguing artist coming out of Boston. Pace, Nubia Garcia, is from the saxophonist and jazz superstar Nubia Garcia, coming out of the great jazz scene of London. And this one, it's really the mission statement for the album. Her solo really navigates between fiery and dizzying sort of instrumentation and just great jazz right there. The recipe from Aluna. She is one half of the legendary UK dance powerhouse Aluna George. This song with Kay Trinata, the recipe, it's smooth, it's sensual. It's exactly what you want for summer. 24K from TK Maizda. That's just a banger right there. Billie Eilish, My Future. Everything Billie Eilish drops is, massive. And My Future is definitely a reflection on the pandemic and sort of getting to be comfortable with yourself and where you're going in life and where you're going to come out of this. So positive song right there from Billie Eilish. Also, Dua Lipa, Don't Stop Now. I mean, Dua Lipa, Future Nostalgia was a huge album. Dua Lipa is a massive artist. I've said on the podcast, is going to dominate the pop music landscape, I think, for the next 5 years. Don't Stop Now is definitely going to be in her pantheon of iconic tracks. And just the whole dance beat and, Dua Lipa's great voice. It's perfect. Perfect accompaniment for summer. The Ringtone remix from 100 Jacks featuring Charlie XCX, Rico Nasty, Caro Benito. I mean, 100 Jacks is the glitch Gen Z weird group and sound that has been hugely popular online, and this Ringtone remix is great because Charlie XCX is great, Rico Nasty is great, perfect. Detonate from Charlie XCX. This is from, I believe she released 2 albums over quarantine. Just a great pop song, and definitely has that undercurrent of the early days of the pandemic stay-at-home orders. Blinding Lights from The Weeknd. It's the most heard song on radio with 1.2 billion audience impressions. That has certainly been a huge summer smash. Rain on Me, Lady Gaga featuring Ariana Grande. I mean, that's 2 superstars. That's a dance joint. That is everything you want from a summer song. That's one that would have dominated nightclubs for sure. But for me, the winner is, after much deliberation, Blinding Lights from The Weeknd. He made Billboard history once again with his previous leader, Blinding Lights, officially becoming the longest running top 5 song in the 62-year history of the Hot 100 charts. It logged its 28th consecutive week in the charts top 5 to take the lead from Ed Sheeran's Shape of You, which had accumulated a total of 27 weeks in 2017. And originally dropped in November 2019, served as the second single off his latest album, After Hours. The track peaked at number 1 in March and was at the top spot for about 4 weeks. It has racked up 340 million streams between June 1st and August 15th. And although it was released in last November, it speaks to cities being cold and empty and sort of the cinematic nature to the After Hours project and just the catchy 80s tune that Blinding Lights really is and borrows heavily from. Feels like something that would have dominated the charts in summer of 1985. Here we are in 2020. Everyone's nostalgic for that whole 80s sound, synths, old 808s. It's, repetitive lyrics. It's the whole thing that makes 80s music so enjoyable and danceable and really fits with the whole summer vibe. I think The Weeknd taps into that big time, and I just gave you the numbers. It's the biggest song on radio, and it's had 340 million streams between June 1st and August 15th. I don't think there's 340 million people in America. You can fact check me. But I think this Canadian, The Weeknd, he has conquered America. He has conquered the world. He has conquered summer. Blinding Lights from The Weeknd is my song of the summer. Let me know what you think. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I've just purely ignorant of what a good summer song is, let us know. I love some good feedback.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back to the show, y'all. Just got through our Song of the Summer discussion. Maybe you agreed, maybe you disagreed, maybe you wish I included something. There's going to be someone who disagrees with me. It's cool, That's the beautiful thing about music. We can all like our own stuff. We all have our own opinions. Not judging you. But I am quite biased towards my pick. That being said, let's get into the winners and losers of summer 2020. So on this winding road that has been summer 2020, who's a winner? Who's a loser? First things first, loser, Tory Lanez. Now, if you follow music gossip, music news, music drama, you're probably well aware of the Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion drama. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it. We have covered it in previous episodes. If you want to check that out, please do so. But essentially, Megan Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez, they were together in LA. We don't know exactly what happened, what precipitated it, but Megan Thee Stallion ended up with a gunshot wound to her feet. And Tory Lanez went silent. He was charged, I believe, with possession of a firearm. And Megan was silent for a little bit and finally came out and said, essentially confirmed that Tory Lanez was responsible. So Tory Lanez, he had not responded to that. He just released a new album called Daystar, which is full of references to the shooting and essentially him giving his side of the story. Really, it's a concept album about Megan Thee Stallion's claim that he shot her in July. He claims in the album that he was framed. He actually says a lot, and it's hard to follow. When you're lying, you come up with all sorts of crazy excuses, which it's pretty clear that Tory Lanez is lying here and that he's full of crap. But, just to give you a sense of what he said, where he's coming from, he said, if you were really shot, how do you get shot in your foot, but it didn't hit any bones or tendons? Referring to the fact that Megan actually miraculously did not suffer any serious wounds to her bones or tendons. Then he later asks, if you got shot from behind, how can you identify me? As if sitting in the same car together just moments before and then leaving the car and, kind of putting two to two together who shot you. I don't think she needed to see you. Well, that just makes no sense. He really had 2 months to get his story straight here. Instead of expressing any accountability, or regret, or empathy, he's really portraying himself as the victim here. He has this weird reference to cancel culture, as if that topic wasn't beaten into the ground enough. We have Tory Lanez talking about cancel culture. He also went on to say that he's innocent and claims that somehow Megan's team at Rock Nation was behind it, plotting his downfall. He even insinuates the Illuminati might be behind it. He's essentially creating the impression that there's this whole intricate plot designed to take down Tory Lanez, because in Tory Lanez's mind, he's kind of a big deal, when in reality, you're not, dude. You are both literally a small man and figuratively in the music world a small man. No one cares about you that much to make a complex plot to take you down. It's just an absolute joke. He's a fraud. He's a clown. He's always had a mediocre career. This is just going to essentially be the first thing we think of for the rest of Tory Lanez's life, is this ridiculousness. And, he also had some weird claims to saying that Megan was jealous because he was interested in Kylie Jenner. As if Kylie Jenner was interested in him. Yeah, this guy's ego and narcissism knows no ends. So, big loser, Tory Lanez. His career was already mediocre. Now he's hated by a huge contingent of the hip-hop fan base. He's always going to have some people behind him because that's just the nature of our world. Bad guys get followings, but you know what? Karmic justice has already come for Tory Lanez. He is a big, capital L, loser of summer 2020. Vice versa, big winner is Megan Thee Stallion. She had 2 number 1 hits this summer with WAP and the Savage remix with Beyonce. She was also named Time Magazine's one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential human beings. That's quite the honor. Not to mention, she's already received 2 BET Awards, 2 MTV VMA Awards, and a Billboard Woman in Music Award. So her career is going way, way up. She's already achieved massive success and still seems like she's got a lot more ahead of her. Big winner summer 2020, Megan Thee Stallion. And she, again, survived getting shot by this little crazy man, Tory Lanez. Hell of a summer for her. Loser of summer 2020, music venues. As much as it pains me, this is just, look at the facts here. Live music is in a bad way right now. In early April, the concert industry trade publication Pollstar estimated nearly $9 billion in industry losses due to coronavirus cancellations for 2020. And 62% of American artists across all disciplines are now unemployed. 90% of independent venue owners, promoters, and bookers say that they will have to close permanently within the next few months if they can't get an infusion of targeted government funding. The survey of nearly 2,000 music professionals was conducted by the National Independent Venue Association, which include venues like the Bowery Ballroom in New York City, the Troubadour in Los Angeles, the 930 Club in Washington, D.C., and Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. Even if venues were allowed to reopen sooner, public health restrictions like severely limited audience capacity would make their businesses economically unviable, the venue owners and promoters argue. From massive festivals to small, intimate venues, they are all in dire straits. I mean, even the massive corporation that is Live Nation said it had a loss of $588 million compared to a profit of $176 million in the previous year. The entertainment business in general is scheduled to be among the very last industries to reopen. And many experts and industry leaders are now assuming that they won't be able to reopen before 2021. Really, emerging artists are suffering tremendously from this as well. Most musicians make the bulk of their income through live performances and touring, which they can't do for the foreseeable future. And if you're an emerging artist, you can't reach a fan base or build grassroots excitement when you can't perform. There are 2 identical versions of the Save Our Stages Act going through Congress at the moment, which would essentially be a stimulus for these struggling music venues all over the country. One was introduced to the Senate, one to the House back in July. No actions have yet been taken on the bill, but support seems to be growing, which is a little bit of good news. And it's just been really, really hard for live music. It's really scary and depressing. And let's hope fall and winter and just 2021 in general are more successful, and that we've seen the worst of the impacts of COVID on the live music world. Really hoping they can recover. That being said, a winner of summer are the music streaming giants. No surprise, as we're all at home. We're all listening. You know, you can't go to a live music venue, but you can go on Spotify, you can go on TikTok, you can go on Bandcamp. Spotify reported big changes in listening habits as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. They said that every day now looks like the weekend, which is the company quote in their newsletter, as they've seen people spend more time at home. Consumption hours are back up to pre-pandemic levels, though it admitted it is varying around the world depending on how strict the COVID rules and regulations are. Overall, Spotify said that it now has 299 million monthly active users, a 29% increase compared to last year, while subscribers increased by 27% to 138 million. Streams of its Summer Barbecue and Summer Garden playlist have increased by 60% compared to last year, with spikes often correlating to the weather. There's also obviously an appetite for feel-good party music, such as Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar, which I mentioned in the Songs of Summer discussion. And even streams of Spotify's Ibiza themed playlist are up by 45% from 2019. People are stuck at home. They want to be reminded of fond memories of clubbing, of bars, of barbecues, of parties. So people are looking for happy music, source of escape and relief. Even just look at pop, where the average tempo of the 20 best-selling songs was 122 beats per minute, the highest it has been since 2009. Clearly, we're all hungry for some up-tempo, positive vibes in this hellhole of a year. TikTok has also done very, very well. Engagement has thrived in lockdown, creating a big knock-on effect to the charts. It is responsible for many of the year's biggest hits, including The Box by Roddy Ricch, Say So by Doja Cat, The Weeknd's Blinding Lights. The current UK number one, Savage Love, came about after singer Jason Derulo found a beat posted to TikTok by the 17-year-old producer Josh685. You've even seen attempts like Drake's Tootsie Slide, which was named after an influencer and released with a dance as just clear, angling to have a TikTok hit. Drake is always playing the trends and the popular wave, so no surprise he did that. Beyonce, in her Savage remix, mentions how her hips tick-tock, which is definitely a purposeful reference there. So you're really seeing TikTok. We've already seen it make hits, and now with summer and the quarantine and stay-at-home orders, people are on their phone more often. They're on TikTok more often, and they're being introduced to music. And it doesn't even have to be current music. Simple Plan, the pop-punk band from 2002, they just had one of their songs to go back in the charts because it was trending on TikTok. So TikTok is, hugely impactful on the music industry, and it seems to be only growing as a result of the pandemic summer. And lastly, Bandcamp, which has sort of been the one platform that has provided a viable lifeline to starving and struggling musicians. They can't perform. They can't really pursue their traditional forms of income. So Bandcamp has been a lifeline to those people because they announced in March that on each Friday through the end of 2020, it would forego its regular 15% cut on digital sales and 10% cut of physical sales, in effect channeling 100% of money directly from fan to artist, often with as little as a 2-day turnaround. Since then, fans have paid artists nearly $100 million on Bandcamp. The more people that could hear your music meant more people at concerts, meant more people buying merch, and everybody's happy. Take out live of the equation, and suddenly it doesn't really add up, Bandcamp CEO said. As the plight of their favorite musicians spread across social media, fans were eager to help. That's exactly what Bandcamp has tapped into. People will go support their favorite artists on Bandcamp because they know they are making a statement of support. More than 40% of buyers pay more than asking price at checkout, according to Bandcamp. So if you have an artist you love, want to support them, you can't go see them live, go buy their stuff on Bandcamp. You can buy their albums, buy their merch, buy the vinyls, buy bundles. Just, that's a great way to support them. And, you know, it's nice to see Bandcamp doing well in the midst of all this, along with the streaming giants like TikTok and Spotify. Those are your winners and losers for summer 2020. After the break, we will be getting into the best albums of summer.
Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the show. We are now about to dive into the best albums of summer 2020. A lot was released. Very hard choices, but couldn't include everything. But these are my personal best albums of 2020. Let me know what you think. But, I tried to cover a wide variety of genres here. Different sounds. Had to really research what even happened this summer, because in COVID time is even more confusing and disorienting and just flat out difficult to remember than beforehand. And yeah, so I really had to figure out. I was like, oh my god, this came out this summer? I totally forgot. That felt like 5 years ago, but did the best I could. I'm not going to name a winner here. We're just going to discuss what the best albums are. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide what the best album of summer was. But to set the tone, I think we got to start out with Haim's Women in Music Part 3. We covered this album, I believe, my first episode for the show, and I absolutely adore this album. I absolutely love this band. And this was really their creative peak. I don't want to say it's their magnum opus, because they still got plenty of material to record, but I think this will be one of their stronger records when it's all said and done. And yeah, it was just fantastic. Released in July, I believe. It was supposed to come out earlier, but got pushed back due to the pandemic. It was produced by the reliable trio of Danielle Haim, who's also the lead singer, her partner and longtime collaborator Ariel Reichsted, and Vampire Weekend's creative heartbeat Rossman Batmanji. And the album really plays out like the emotional roller coaster that is our current reality, from a few heartbreaking and melancholy cuts to the upbeat and infectious jams their love for women in music 3 finds them at their apex. And it's my favorite album from them thus far, one of my favorites of the summer. It's upbeat, it's wide-ranging, the lyrical content is emotionally courageous at times. The songs shift gears, are always finding the right genre for the mood, and sometimes containing different sounds and subgenres within the same song. For a band that cultivated this persona of silliness and, not taking themselves too seriously, it's clear that they were all working through various levels of emotional turmoil, and that is all addressed on the album and really adds some depth to the project. And there's even a song explicitly about quarantine on this album, I Know Alone, which is sort of a UK garage electronic sound. Explores the loneliness and depression that accompanies staying in your house all day with nowhere to escape to. And they even developed a little dance for it, which is very quarantine summer-ish with all the TikTok dances. Strongest tracks for me are The Steps, Up From a Dream, Don't Wanna, mentioned Gasoline, also really enjoyed 3 a.m. I mean, honestly, the whole album's great. Summer Girl, fantastic. Just give them all a try. This was one of my favorite albums of quarantine. When I look back at summer 2020, I'm definitely going to associate it with this album because I was just listening to it all the time. I think it has every mood and feeling you'd fall through in our quarantine summer. So it's got something for all of us for all different times. Twice as Tall from Burna Boy. Again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we did discuss this on a previous episode. It was not as exciting or as the magnum opus that he delivered with African Giant just hit like an asteroid. Twice as Tall is more like a comet. Passed by us, it didn't make impact, but it was still a great record. Really strong showing from Burna Boy. And yeah, it's going to be hard to top African Giant or even the fan favorite Outside, but this was a satisfying sequel, and it was admirable to see him balance his signature sound with hints of evolution, all while remaining true to his distinct sound and Nigerian heritage. Wonderful was the clear radio-friendly single that's a good, unchallenging introduction to Burna Boy if you haven't listened to him before, and it's a warm celebration of Africa as the motherland of not only Africans, but mankind as a whole. Other strong songs were Onyeka and 23, No Fit Vex. Lots of great songs on this. Good sequel. More importantly, Burna Boy represents the future of African music and its presence on the international stage, and it's an increasing relevancy. Flo Milli Ho, Why Is You Here was a smash hit this summer. The debut album from the 20-year-old Alabama rapper. It became a hit, especially on TikTok, and received glowing press coverage. She was one of the best trash talkers in hip-hop this summer. She just oozes confidence. I think she's going to be a star. And B-Flow Mix was the song that really propelled her to stardom. It only clocks in at 30 minutes, so it's easy to get through. Just like that's a drive. That's a summer drive right there. High repeatability factor. It's brash, it's arrogant, it's self-assured. It's the kind of immense confidence that is irresistible in a time when the world around us feels more vulnerable and uncertain than ever before. And yet another example of 2020 in general being the year of the female rapper They are sort of leading the genre right now, you could argue. Maybe we will bring that up on a future episode, but Flo Milli is definitely at the vanguard of that. Dinner Party from Dinner Party was the jazz slash hip hop slash neo soul record from the collective that included superstars like Kamasi Washington, Robert Glasper, Terrace Martin, and Ninth Wonder. That's 11 Grammy nominations between all of them. The album was number 1 on the US Billboard Jazz Album charts and number 55 on top album sales. It was only 23 minutes long, so really quick listen again. That's a nice summer drive. Very cool little project. Even when the record leaves listeners wishing for just a little bit more, it's hard to be that disappointed with an album that's filled with lush performances and some of the best musicians in their respective genres. I wish it was longer, but you know what? It's still great to have. It's lush, it's buttery, it's atmospheric, it's glowing to sleep in the best way kind of music. It is peaceful but dynamic. Crazy craft meets improv brilliance. Jazz at its best in 2020. Easy on the years. Song recommendations there. First Responders and Freeze Tag. And Freeze Tag is really a political statement and speaks to the protests that we saw over the summer. Punisher from Phoebe Bridgers, another great project. We did a deep dive on that on a previous episode. I just thought it was stunning in its rawness. Of course, the vivid songwriting, as is always the case with Phoebe Bridgers. Crushing emotional vibe, stark honesty. That's what she's bringing to the table and exactly what we need during this time. We just got to confront our emotions, lean into the sadness sometimes in order to have a good cry, have a good cathartic confrontation, and then move on and grow from it. And, you know, like Haim Bridgers, also from Los Angeles, also brought up with the music of Laurel Canyon, but she came of age listening to emo, and that provides the spine of her work on this album. Not gonna lie, this album is gonna make you sad, twist you into emotional knots, but it's a journey that leaves us with the sense that tears were earned, scars were formed, but ultimately Bridgers and the audience can move forward into a calmer, peaceful tomorrow. And that is the message we need right now. Songs to check out would be I See You, Moonsong, Graceland 2, I already mentioned, Kyoto, I Know the End, Punisher. And it provides different bits of music that appeal to all moods of both pre-COVID and post-COVID experiences. She is one of the defining voices of the moment right now. TK Maiza's Last Year Was Weird Volume 2. Such a fun project. I immensely enjoyed this. She is, of course, from Australia. She is crossing over into the UK and the US. She is getting huge. Great combo of bedroom pop, alternative R&B, and hip-hop. She's totally versatile. She can do psychedelic funky cuts like PB Jam. Awake, featuring JPEG Mafia and Grasshopper, are both hardcore drill songs that, you know, would definitely blow out the speakers in your car. You Sad is, you know, an anti-pop playlist sort of sound. Don't Call Again is a well-executed R&B crooner. It's quirky, it's approachable, and it's just flat out enjoyable. Check out that project. Such a great work that came out this summer. Fontaine DC's A Hero's Death from the Dublin post-punk band. It's their second album, described by Pitchfork as heady, funny, and fearless. This was one of the best punk records, I think, to come out as of late. Had a Joy Division vibe with its exhaustion with modern life, but radical empathy. You get the sense that the band feels too much and that they perform tough music for soft hearts. poetry nerds expressing themselves with cutting guitars and carefully executed noise pollution. Tracks I would recommend: A Lucid Dream, which is sort of this psychedelic epic. Oh Such a Spring, this wistful sweet tune. I Was Not Born is this danceable Velvet Underground homage, and really has the message of I was not born to do another man's bidding. That is the sort of confrontational and powerful statements we need right now. Don't do another man's bidding. Now's the time to seize the moment. Carpe diem. Do your thing. And as they say later on in that song, life ain't always empty. Sometimes it feels that way during quarantine, during this summer, but it ain't. And yeah, if you like punk, if you like rock, if you like good lyrical content, check out Fontaine DC's A Hero's Death. Amine, Limbo. This is his sophomore album. Quietly one of the year's stronger hip-hop records. His flow is just smooth and melodic on this thing. He's got plenty of quips, plenty of great bars, great verses, and his delivery is bolstered with exceptional production. Check out Burden, check out Woodlawn, and ultimately provides us with the vulnerability and honesty that shows tremendous growth from a guy who's essentially a radio-friendly rapper. When we first heard him come on the scene, he's really grown as an artist, and this album was one of my favorites of the summer. Nubia Garcia's Source, debut album from the acclaimed London saxophonist out of the growing and exciting London jazz scene. It's adventurous, it's kinetic, it's sophisticated. You've got a good mix of improv and craft here. Great harmonies. It's just one of the very best jazz records I've heard this year. Certainly this summer. And last but not least, Folklore from Taylor Swift. T-Swizzle, we did a episode on this album as well. This week, she returned to number 1 on the Billboard album chart with Folklore, which was a surprise quarantine album, claiming its 7th non-consecutive week at the number 1 spot. No other title has collected this many number 1 weeks since Drake's Views. In her career, Swift has held the chart's number 1 spot 47 times. Folklore had the equivalent of 87,000 sales this week, nearly double its haul from the week before. Not sure why that happened, exactly what led to that, but I mean, this album is fantastic. It was recorded during quarantine and fits the whole quarantine experience right now. It is her leaning into an indie folk, indie rock sort of sound. Really that singer-songwriter style that I've always wanted her to go into. And the fact that she could go back to basics but still dominate the charts like she would have if it was a standard pop record is really encouraging for both music and for her career in general. And, you know, you have great storytelling on this, great songs like Last Great American Dynasty or the Teenage Love Trilogy of Cardigan, August, and Betty. The songs off this project may not be the sort of radio favorites or party anthems we're accustomed to from Taylor Swift, but the songs stay with you in a more meaningful way and reward multiple visits. I want to call what she's doing on this innovative. It's kind of typical of the indie genre with influences from Sufjan Stevens, Bon Iver, Lana Del Rey, Phoebe Bridgers sprinkled throughout, but it's effective and promotes the album's greatest strength, which is storytelling. She's always been really skilled at writing about love and romance, and she really delivers on that front here. Plenty of lyrical standouts. This is not only one of my favorite albums of summer, but one of my favorite albums of the year. Some honorable mentions that I couldn't get to due to time restrictions. Jeff Rosenstock, No Dream, great punk record. Aluna from Aluna George, Renaissance, great dance record there. Blue and Exile Miles, great hip-hop instrumental record there. And Zeros from Declan McKenna, sort of leaning into the David Bowie sound on that one. Those are my best albums of summer 2020. After the break, we were getting into the first edition of True or False, summer 2020.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the show. Now, we're going to play a little game, True or False, Summer 2020. Essentially, the idea comes from this summer, this year, has been so insane, so ridiculous, so unexpected. Just a roller coaster of a time period that it is very difficult to know what's fact or fiction. I feel like, some of the headlines I read, some of the things that people tell me sound like a joke at first or sound completely bizarre and off the wall and there's no way it's true. But then it turns out it's actually fact. It actually happened. And so speaking to that sort of dynamic, I feel like a lot of us are in that position right now. We're like, man, I can't believe some of this stuff is happening in real life. It's not a dream. It's not a nightmare. It is real life. So I thought, let's apply that to music, because music has had some headlines, some stories that if I showed them to you before summer 2020, you'd say that sounds like some fan fiction, but here we are. This is real life. And there are some crazy real life headlines that happen in the music world, but some of them I just made up for fun. So you're going to have to figure out, is Rory lying? Is he telling the truth? We'll see. Start things off. R. Kelly's manager threatened to shoot up a screening of the Lifetime docu-series Surviving R. Kelly. Is that true or false? R. Kelly's manager threatened a screening of the Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly, which details allegations of all kinds of nefarious activities related to R. Kelly and his treatment of women. Is that true? Did his manager really threaten to shoot up a screening of it? That is indeed true. Federal prosecutors charged former R. Kelly manager Donnell Russell with calling in a gun threat to a New York advance screening of the Lifetime television series Surviving R. Kelly. The 6-part series explored allegations that the fallen R&B star had sexually abused women and girls going back to the 90s. This disrupted the advanced screening at New York's theater, which was also going to include a panel discussion featuring several of his accusers. After the threat was called in, the screening was canceled and the theater was evacuated. Russell, who was Kelly's manager at the time, is being charged with 2 counts of threatening physical harm to interstate communication and conspiracy to do the same. According to prosecutors, Russell was in Chicago at the time of the screening, and they drafted messages that discouraged the network from airing the series. Prosecutors say that Russell also sent cease and desist letters to stop the screening, called the New York Police Department and the Fire Department in an attempt to disrupt the screening, and finally contacted an employee by phone to say that there was a person in the theater with a gun who was prepared to shoot up the room. That's how desperate he was to not get this shown. Since then, R. Kelly has been attacked in jail and begged to be released due to COVID and threats to him in jail, but so far he's still there. Doesn't look like he's leaving anytime soon, and that is a true headline. One man gained control of half the music industry. Is that true? Is that false? Could one man really gain control of half the music industry? That is true. I know. Crazy. A recent Department of Justice decision to allow Liberty Media to increase its stake in iHeartMedia has made billionaire John Malone one of the most powerful people in the music industry. The Department of Justice approved Liberty Media to increase its stake in iHeartMedia up to 50%, according to Politico. iHeartMedia owns 850 radio stations, both AM and FM, and the iHeartRadio streaming app. Malone, who is 79 years old, is the chairman of the board and founder of Liberty Media. Liberty has a 71% ownership stake in Sirius XM and a 33% ownership stake in Live Nation Entertainment. Sirius XM also owns streaming platform Pandora, and Live Nation Entertainment also owns Ticketmaster. The Department of Justice greenlit the merger. If you're listening to something in America that isn't NPR or Spotify, there's a good chance it's now owned by billionaire John Malone. Like I said, he already controls Sirius XM and Pandora. It is just insane corporate concentration. Now, the worry here is it's going to limit choice and acceptable options, since most music will now be through the lens of Liberty Media, one company. And what that says about music going forward is it could be biased one way or the other depending on what actors like Liberty Media deem successful, deem worth investing in, or what they want to promote or push. It's really not exactly the level playing field that you want in a free market. This is essentially creating the gated sort of gatekeepers that, you know, controlled the music industry before, and then the internet kind of disrupted that whole thing because traditional media went by the wayside and you could just upload music to the internet, and you can still do that. Obviously, the internet is still king in music, but radio is still massively important. And if he controls Live Nation, which controls Ticketmaster, that means they can really decide when and where artists play, what music is deemed acceptable for concerts, who gets priority for certain venues and certain shows. And then you also add on the fact he does own Pandora, which is not as big as Spotify or Apple Music, but it's still a very popular internet radio platform. And that really shows he's involved in all areas of the music industry, from live performances to radio to internet radio to streaming. It's truly unprecedented, and yeah, I don't know. There could be some serious negative effects from this, but it is the truth. And, just reading that sentence that one man gained control of half the music industry, John Malone, you'd say, who and really how did that happen? Well, it just did. Those corporate, sweet, sweet corporate mergers made it happen. That is a true statement. Is the next one a true statement? Travis Scott released his own McDonald's meal. Did that really happen? Did McDonald's release a Travis Scott McDonald's meal? Could that really be true? Yes. It is. It is very true. The Cactus Jack meal, which consists of a quarter pounder with cheese, bacon, and lettuce, a Sprite, and fries with barbecue sauce, which is supposedly Scott's go-to Mickey D's order, is selling for $6, and CNBC reports that it has been so popular it's been causing ingredient shortages nationwide. Yeah, we have a nationwide shortage of barbecue sauce and Sprite right now. The ingredients of all healthy meals right there. Yeah. I mean, it's not totally surprising. If you showed me that headline before, I'd be like, you know what? I could see Travis Scott, totally, I don't know if you want to call it selling out or, smart business strategy, but working with a massive corporation like McDonald's to get his name out there. Travis Scott is, if nothing but savvy. He is really, really skilled at navigating the music industry. He was able to read what was popular on the internet, what was trending online, and develop his own sound around that, and get himself noticed and really develop a fan base organically. He did that really all on his own, so he knows how to play the game. And getting your own McDonald's meal, yeah, it's kind of stupid, yeah, it's kind of silly, but it keeps his name out there in the public eye. Obviously makes him a bigger name in just mainstream culture in general, and it's just free advertising all the time for him. The McDonald's benefits from it, and Travis Scott certainly benefits from it. And I have not tried the meal yet. I don't think I will. Honestly, it doesn't sound good. I'm more of a McChicken guy, if I'm being honest. Next headline: true or false? Kanye West released a 3-track EP with Elon Musk and Grimes called One Nation Under God, featuring avant-garde production of sounds of the natural world like creek beds, thunderstorms, and urban cityscapes, with experimental screaming and Kanye's voice pitched to the chipmunk style of old Kanye beats as he discusses the policy proposals of his presidential candidacy, such as universal healthcare coverage that includes quality of life provisions like liposuction, lip injections, and CRISPR DNA genetic manipulations, his support for the Second Amendment, his wish to abolish the death penalty, and called for the return of a pre-industrial agrarian society. Guest appearances from Candace Owens, Dave Chappelle, Colin Kaepernick, Kim Kardashian, Jared Kushner. The cover is a pictured tweet of Kanye urinating on a Grammy Award trophy with the caption, "I approve this message." True or false? And, that was really some creative writing right there. That is false. I had a lot of fun with that headline, though. It sounded so crazy that you almost believed it, right? Kanye sort of in that, I believe, what the famous basketball writer called the Tyson zone, which is essentially the concept that any headline you would believe coming from Mike Tyson, because there was a period in his life where he was so crazy, so out of control that if you said any headline, you said Mike Tyson wrestled a polar bear down Park Avenue in New York, you'd be like, yeah, I could see that. That's possible that happened. Kanye West is sort of in that territory right now where you say Kanye did X, Y, or Z or said X, Y, or Z, no matter how insane, how bizarre, you'd say, Yeah, I could see it. And that is the comedy and the tragedy of Kanye West right now. That being said, even though it was a false headline, there are grains of truth in that. Kanye did apparently call for a return to a pre-industrial agrarian society. Don't ask me why. Maybe don't even ask Kanye why. Sometimes he just says stuff. He doesn't even know why he says it. He also did tweet a photo of himself urinating on a Grammy award. That really did happen. And most importantly, he really is truly running for president. Now, he was not in the presidential debate that we saw, but, maybe if he gets enough polling support, maybe raises some more money, we'll see Kanye at the debate. Huh? Who wouldn't love to see that just for entertainment value? It's clear that these debates aren't really going to change many minds. People will have their minds made up anyways. Why not add the craziness of Kanye to the mix? Anyways, those are my true or false headlines for summer 2020. Overall, it's been a great period of music. Not the best time for humanity, not the best time for our country, but you know what? We've gotten through it. We are finally entering pumpkin spice season, finally entering decorative gourd season. We are here. It's fall. It's autumn. Let's hope things go a little bit more smoothly, but, at least we got some good music out of it. Thank you for tuning in to the show. Make sure to leave a review, rate us 5 stars, please, and follow us on all the social platforms. Till next time, stay safe, y'all.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.